Hello and welcome once again to the most must-see podcast to someone anywhere in the world. I'm Freddie Court. This is Mark's Side of the Ring, back again for another week to talk all things professional wrestling. Most importantly, the Royal Rumble. We are now less than 2 weeks away from the 35th annual Royal Rumble event from St. Louis, Missouri. What a card it is. We're going to break it all down next week on the final podcast before the Royal Rumble, and it'll be airing like literally the day of. So definitely something to check out before that night's event. But what we're going to do is a continuation of what we did last week, where we went back and looked at some Royal Rumbles from years past. Now, like I said last week, we were going to do it in years of 5, right? So I went back as far as 1992, which was 30 years ago, which is crazy to think about. We went over that. We went over the 1997 Royal Rumble, which was 25 years ago. And we went over the 2002 Royal Rumble, which was 20 years ago. So today, we're going to go over the Royal Rumble from 15 years ago, which was the 2007. The Royal Rumble from 10 years ago, which was 2012. And then the Royal Rumble that was 5 years ago, 2017. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to cover those 3 Royal Rumbles and just go over a little bit. And in between, I'll go over the winners of the other Rumbles like I did last week. So, like I said, we ended with 2002 with Triple H winning. We covered that event from Atlanta, Georgia. In 2003, we had Brock Lesnar winning the Royal Rumble. We had in 2004, Chris Benoit winning the Royal Rumble, although you'll never hear about it anymore, unfortunately. 2005, we had Batista winning it. 2006, we had Rey Mysterio winning it. And now that brings us to 2007. Like I said, 15 years ago, once again, coming to you from San Antonio, Texas, just like the 1997 Royal Rumble at the Alamodome. However, this time, they were at the AT&T Center, an attendance of 13,500 to see what is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, Royal Rumble match finishes in history. And not only because my favorite wrestler of all time happened to win that Royal Rumble, but it was just an amazing, amazing finish, which we'll go over. So just to start things off, back in 2007, we started the show off hot and heavy with the Hardys, who had recently started to team up once again, which was really cool, defeating Eminem, which was Joey Mercury, Johnny Nitro with Melina. They had broken up too for a period of time, just maybe a few months or whatever, and had recently gotten back together. So you had 2 tag teams that hadn't been together for some time, and now are back together and competing against each other. And they really had good matches. Everybody remembers the Armageddon 06 match, which was a fatal 4-way ladder when Joey Mercury's face basically got torn off. Well, they came back a month later and had a just a regular tag match, but it was good. And like I said, the Hardys went over on Eminem. Next, we had Bobby Lashley defeating Test by countout for the ECW championship. So Lashley retained the title, and Batista did not yet. Batista will be coming up next, but Test got counted out. So I believe this is Test's last pay-per-view appearance. It may be one of his last appearances in general. Unfortunately, we lost Test a couple years after this event. Test is a guy that I really thought was going to make a big name for himself. I still don't understand how he didn't. After the Triple H, Stephanie McMahon wedding angle, that would have been the time you would think that he would have really taken off. And it really went nowhere. And then after that, he did certain things. He had mediocre success, Intercontinental Champion, Tag Team Champion, and things of that nature, but nothing of big importance. And unfortunately, like I said, we lost him way too soon. But Test was a great worker. And Bobby Lashley, right? 15 years later from this event when he was defending the ECW championship, a hiatus for however long, over 10 years, comes back, has, somewhat success, but nothing crazy. And then the last couple of years, just tearing it up. And now in the biggest match of his entire career, him and Brock Lesnar, at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship in one of the most anticipated matches ever. So it's crazy to look back at Bobby from 15 years ago and then see where he is now. It's really cool. He finally got his due and finally got where he was supposed to be. But so then, like I said, Batista, I mentioned him. He defeated Mr. Kennedy to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Kennedy's another guy, like I was talking about Test, that I really thought Kennedy was going to make it big, especially around this time. He was one of the hottest acts on SmackDown, and then he got drafted to Raw, I believe, actually, in 2007, later in the year. But it just never, every time something was going to happen, he would win the Money in the Bank at this year's WrestleMania, and then he would have to give it up because of a misdiagnosis, and then he was supposed to be the guy that blew up Vince McMahon's limo, and then the Benoit thing happened, and that got kiboshed, and then he was going to be Mr. McMahon's illegitimate son in that angle, but something happened with that, and it just one thing after the other, and then he ended up getting released like a couple of years later. But just a guy, missed opportunity, but a lot of it, I think, was just bad luck. He was certainly talented, and I'm surprised we don't see him do more today. He did go to TNA and did some stuff over there for a while, and I believe he's got a wrestling school with Sean Davari. But as far as being on television, I'm surprised he has it. He'd be a nice Royal Rumble surprise. Maybe this year. You never know, right? That'd be really cool. But anyway, Batista defeated Kennedy to retain. And then in an amazing match, I really enjoyed this. John Cena defeated Umaga in a last man standing match for the WWE Championship. They had a match at the pay-per-view prior, New Year's Revolution. And then they come back with a return, this time last man standing rules. There is a nasty shot where Umaga's head is on the out, like going to the outside of the ring, up against, flush with the ring post. And Cena takes one of the monitors from the announcer's desk and just smacks him right in the head with it. A great shot. And then the finish sees Cena have the STF on Umaga with the ring rope that Armando Estrada had undone to have Umaga use, but it, worked against him. Classic wrestling. And Cena choked him out with it. And like Umaga's face is priceless. And that's how Cena won the last man standing. Just great stuff. And then that brings us to the main event, the 30-man Royal Rumble match. Winner gets a shot at WrestleMania. And this one, of course, like I said, my favorite wrestler of all time won it, his only Rumble win, and the first guy to win from the number 30 spot. Of course, I'm talking about none other than The Undertaker. That's right. Undertaker won the 30-man Royal Rumble in 2007 by last eliminating Shawn Michaels. And like I said, once it was down to Shawn and Taker, they had a match amongst themselves in the Royal Rumble. It was like a match in a match. And they just tore it up. Signs of what would be to come a couple years later when they would go on to have the greatest WrestleMania match of all time and then do a repeat the next year, But I remember when they had this altercation, it was the first time they had touched since Rumble 98, 9 years prior, in the casket match, Shawn's last match for years, right? And I remember just saying, like, oh my God, they were like two of my favorites, especially obviously Taker, but I remember being like, this is amazing. Like, oh, they need to have a match. And it finally happened a couple of years later. I couldn't believe it. And it was tremendous. But it all started here. And Undertaker eliminated Shawn Michaels. So coming out at number one was Ric Flair. Then we had Finlay, Kenny Dykstra, a guy from the past who, for some reason, he was supposed to be a big star, didn't make it. But I digress. Matt Hardy, Edge, Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, Gregory Helms, Shelton Benjamin, Kane, CM Punk, King Booker, Super Crazy, Jeff Hardy, The Sandman, Randy Orton, Chris Benoit, Rob Van Dam, Viscera, Johnny Nitro, Kevin Thorne, Hardcore Holly, Shawn Michaels, Chris Masters, Chavo Guerrero, MVP, Carlito, The Great Khali, The Miz, and then finally, like I said, The Undertaker. So a star-studded Royal Rumble, and one that a lot of guys in here would go on to become, big names down the road. I mean, a guy like MVP, he was just starting out. He was having a good run already, but, to see what he's doing now is just great. Guys like, CM Punk at the time. My God, he had just started out 6 months ago. It's crazy to see the Miz, and now where they're at. But 2007 Royal Rumble, great show, great Rumble match, and like I said, probably the best ending to a Rumble ever. That brings us then to 2012, and in between 2012, we would have in 2008 John Cena winning the Royal Rumble match in a miraculous return. I was there for that at the Garden. Then we had in 2009 Randy Orton winning. 2010 we had Edge winning. 2011 we had Alberto Del Rio winning in the first and only 40-man Royal Rumble, which I was not a fan of, but it was what it was. And then that brings us to 2012, which was 10 years ago. Crazy that 2012 was 10 years ago, but it is. And it was in, ironically, St. Louis, Missouri, but at the Scott Reed Center. This was before they were running stadiums for the Rumble besides the 97, of course. And we had 18,121 in St. Louis at the Scott Reed Center to see the Royal Rumble. The first match on the card was a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship inside of a steel cage. Daniel Bryan, the World Heavyweight Champion, defending and defeating his title, or defending his title and defeating Big Show and Mark Henry. He won by escaping the cage. And obviously, of course, when you have guys like Big Show and Mark Henry and you're Daniel Bryan, nobody expected Daniel Bryan to win, right? Obviously. And he did. He pulled it off. And you see little bits of the yes. It started kind of when he cashed in the Money in the Bank to win the title of TLC the month prior. He was doing the yes a little bit, and you see it a little more here. But it was really the start of it. And then by the time WrestleMania happened and the Raw the night after is when it blew up. And then really blew up years later, but like blowing up as far as getting started. But he started doing it around this time. So it's really fun to go back and see that. And then to see Daniel Bryan 10 years later now, what he's doing, he's one of the main stars in AEW. I wish he was in WWE, but again, it is what it is. But yeah, Daniel Bryan retaining the world title in a cage. Then the next match, we have an 8 Diva tag team match. Beth Phoenix, Natalya, and the Bella Twins defeating Kelly Kelly, Eve Torres, Alicia Fox, and Tamina Snuka. And the interesting thing about this is 10 years later, and at the Rumble, we have this year Beth Phoenix competing, of course, Natalya, the Bella Twins competing. We have Kelly Kelly competing, Eve Torres we don't know about, Alicia Fox we don't know about, and of course, Tamina Snuka. So most of these, what at the time were divas, now women wrestlers, all going to be, most of them anyway, going to be a part of the Royal Rumble, and some that, are very infrequently there. So it's cool to see that. And, what a change has been in the women's division in these 10 years, right? Next was John Cena and Kane, which ended in a double countout. Kind of an odd match for Cena. It's almost like he just needed a spot before his big match with The Rock at Mania in a couple months. And then in a last-minute match, Brodus Clay defeated Drew McIntyre in 1 minute and 5 seconds. Now, the reason I give you the time code on that is because, again, Brodus Clay defeated Drew McIntyre in 1 minute and 5 seconds. And boy, has a lot changed in 10 years. Because I will tell you this, that in 2022, that match would not be happening, nor would Drew McIntyre be losing in 1 minute and 5 seconds. You never say never. And Drew McIntyre is a pure sign of that. What a run he's having. And he's going to have an even bigger run. I think he's going to get back to that level he was at a couple years ago. And he's going to get into that spot for the world title again. It's going to be something with fans. Then we had CM Punk, who was the WWE champion, defeating Dolph Ziggler with John Laurinaitis as a special guest enforcer. This is when Punk was kind of feuding with John Laurinaitis. Laurinaitis was really, doing the, bad guy general manager thing. But he was having a performance review the next night on Raw. So he was trying to be fair at the same time because he didn't want to lose his job. It was pretty good stuff. But yeah, Ziggler's still there killing it. And Punk obviously now returning after all these years, and he's in AEW. And then that brings us to the main event once again, the Royal Rumble match, with the winner getting a shot at the title at WrestleMania 26. And in a surprising win, Sheamus won by last eliminating Chris Jericho. Now, Jericho had just returned, and the rumors were that it was going to be him and Punk for the title at WrestleMania because of the whole best in the world thing. So everybody really thought Jericho was going to win. And to be honest, Sheamus wasn't coming to this Rumble that hot. He hadn't like been on a hell of a run where like, okay, he's got momentum, and it really came out of nowhere. I remember the time I was a little underwhelmed because like I said, he wasn't like having this great run, but cool to say Sheamus won a Rumble. We start off the Royal Rumble number 1 with The Miz, number 2, Alex Riley, then R-Truth, Cody Rhodes, Justin Gabriel, Primo, Mick Foley, which would go on to be his last match. This match was Ricardo Rodriguez, who did a great thing. He came out. Del Rio was injured at the time, and he came out to Del Rio's music in a busted up car and just looking terrible. And it was really funny. Santino Marella, who would go on to have a great showdown with Mick Foley. There was the Cobra versus the Mr. Sacco thing. It was really good. Stupid but good, right? Sometimes those stupid things are just great. That's what makes wrestling fun. Epico, Kofi Kingston, Jerry Lawler, Ezekiel Jackson, Jinder Mahal, The Great Khali, Hunico, Booker T, Dolph Ziggler, Jim Duggan, Michael Cole, Karma, Sheamus, who would go on to win, The Road Dogg, Jey Uso, Jack Swagger, Wade Barrett, David Otunga, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, and finally The Big Show. So some interesting names there. Of course, Michael Cole coming in, Booker T, and Jerry Lawler. All 3 announcers were in it. Road Dogg was awesome. That was a really cool surprise. It was great to see him. I was always a huge Road Dogg fan. It's unfortunate that he just got released. He was a great talent. But yeah, the 3 announcers thing was kind of funny. So some good surprises in this fun. We had, like I said, Mick Foley and Road Dogg, Jim Duggan making the appearance every once in a while. The first ever Rumble winner, so it's fitting. Karma, who hadn't been there in forever, and only the 3rd woman in history to be in the men's Rumble. This is obviously before the women had their own Rumble match. So good stuff. Sheamus winning, surprisingly. So then 2013, real quick, we had John Cena winning the Royal Rumble. 2014 was Batista. 2015, Roman Reigns. 2016, we had Triple H. And that brings us to 2017, the 30th annual Royal Rumble. Once again, back in San Antonio. And once again, 20 years later, back in the Alamodome. So we ran San Antonio in 97, 07, and 2017. Will they run it in 2027? Who knows, right? It's kind of fun that they've done that. I don't know if it's been intentional or not, but it's pretty cool. But it was the first Rumble back in a stadium since 1997, one at the same venue. And it was cool. It was a huge Rumble. Like the match had a lot of big stars in it. And it was one of the most star-studded Rumbles, to be honest. And one of the best matches in Rumble history, in that we had John Cena and AJ Styles in their 3rd and final showdown for the title. But we'll get to that. So we start off the 2017 Royal Rumble with Charlotte Flair, who was the Raw Women's Champion, defeating Bayley to retain it. Then we have Kevin Owens defeating Roman Reigns in a no DQ match for the WWE Universal Championship. Jericho was suspended above the ring in a shark cage. And then ironically, Owens and Reigns would go on to feud last year for the Universal Championship once again. I believe they had a last man standing at the 2021 Royal Rumble. Really good match. This was obviously in the Thunderdome. In my opinion, one of the best Thunderdome matches. But 5 years earlier, Kevin Owens defeating Roman Reigns to retain the title. Then we have Neville defeating Rich Swann by submission for the Cruiserweight Championship and becoming the new Cruiserweight Champion. And then we had John Cena winning the WWE Championship from AJ Styles in, like I said, a classic. Just a great match. They didn't leave the ring once, which was really cool. They had a great match at Money in the Bank the year prior. Great match at SummerSlam that year. And then coming down to the Rumble, their 3rd match, tremendous. But then that brings us to the Rumble with Randy Orton winning by last eliminating Roman Reigns. Now, once again, like I said, about Sheamus, Orton's always hot, right? Orton's always never like not on a run, but he wasn't like where you like thought like Orton's going to win this, and he surprisingly won. And he would go on to face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania that year, and probably shouldn't have won, but we won't. We'll talk about that another day because I thought they were going to make it up last year, and then that didn't happen either, and Bray Wyatt got released. So you never know. But yeah, Randy Orton won the 2017 Royal Rumble. It's kind of crazy how that happened, but I really thought Roman was going to win. I remember, which people probably would have been pissed, but Roman went on to face Taker, and yeah, Orton winning. So we started off the Rumble with Big Cass, Chris Jericho, Kalisto, Mojo Rawley, Jack Gallagher, Mark Henry, Braun Strowman, Sami Zayn, Big Show, Ty Dillinger, who came out at number 10, which was like a really big thing because he was doing the 10 count thing. James Ellsworth, Dean Ambrose, Baron Corbin, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, Sheamus, Big E, Rusev, Cesaro, Xavier Woods, Bray Wyatt, Apollo Crews, Randy Orton, Dolph Ziggler, Luke Harper, rest in peace, Brock Lesnar, Enzo Amore, Goldberg, The Undertaker, and Roman Reigns at number 30. And I don't believe Roman was advertised to be in this because he was in the championship match, and people were, I think, were pissed when he showed up, and then everybody expected him to win, but he didn't. Really good Rumble match, like I said, really star-studded. You had Taker and Brock and Goldberg and Reigns and Orton and Bray and Ambrose and Strowman. I mean, just the names go on and on and on, but Orton winning. Yeah, crazy. But that was a 2017 Rumble 5 years ago. And then in 2018 in Philadelphia, which I was there for, as I was in 2015, but we had Shinsuke Nakamura winning. And then that was the first year that they would do the Women's Rumble, which Asuka won. Of course, the debut of Ronda Rousey. 2019, we had Seth Rollins winning the men's, and we had Becky Lynch winning the women's. 2020, Drew McIntyre winning the men's, Charlotte winning the women's, and then last year, 2021, Edge winning the men's, and Bianca Belair winning the women's. Who will win this year? No one knows. We'll find out in less than 2 weeks in St. Louis once again. So another little Rumble recap of the last within the last 15 years, like I said, 07, 12, and 15, 17. And now here we are, 2022. And we're going to talk about the 2022 Royal Rumble next week on this podcast. Maybe we'll have some guests to go over the matches. No guarantees, but you never say never, right? So this was fun to look back on some past Royal Rumbles. Over the last 2 weeks, we've covered 6 different Rumbles, and then the winners of the Rumble matches for all the other years. But it's fun to go down memory lane. Rumble, one of the best pay-per-views of the year. A lot of people's favorite pay-per-view of the year. And I have to say it's right up there on mine. And here we are, the 35th Royal Rumble Sunday. Or sorry, I'm sure you're saying Sunday. Saturday, January 28th. I will be there, and I am or January 29th. Boy, I'm going to be there, and I don't even know when it is. Saturday, January 29th. That's when it is. I fly out on the 28th, so I had it confused. And pay-per-views been on Sundays for years. So Saturday, January 29th. Don't you dare miss it, live from the Dome at America Center in St. Louis, Missouri. 7 Central, which is the time frame of where it'll be, 7 Central. So, and that's it for me. I'm Freddie Court. This is Mark's Side of the Ring. Royal Rumble coming up soon. We're going to talk all about it next week right here. We'll see you next time.